how do we stay connected to our spouse after the babies start to come? How do we continue to build bridges in our marriage, bridges of connection, bridges of intimacy, bridges of understanding one another after we become parents? How can we continue to learn about our spouse after our entire life is completely changed in the best way possible, but truly after our entire life is turned upside down, after the babies start to come, after the time starts to go by faster and faster, it seems like. I can tell you with sincerity that after I became a mom 6 years ago, it feels like time has been ticking by faster and faster, which does require a more intentional and thoughtful marriage to my husband. It requires a daily effort to think about how to bless him, how to serve him, how to communicate better, how to grow together as we also are parents to 3 little boys and nurturing their hearts and discipling them each and every day. But the question is, how do we stay intimate in marriage after we become parents? I want you to stay tuned with me till the very end, because I am going to share something very personal with you about intimacy and what I have learned in the last almost 7 years of marriage to my husband. And I want you to soak in the advice that I have for you, given the fact that I have done everything wrong. And I also have learned about obedience to the Lord and how to be a godly wife to my husband. So I'm going to give you 3 key tips of how to stay intimate in your marriage in this season that you are in. And once again, stay with me for number 4, the final tip, because I will be sharing something very personal with you that I have learned in the last couple of years of marriage. So number 1 is understanding one another. And as always, I always have my notes. Understanding one another. I remember there was a certain point in our marriage where I hit an eruption, let's just call it, of recognizing all of the ways that I was not being a supportive wife to my husband. I was not being intentional or thoughtful in how to grow in being a loving wife. And so I remember very specifically, I had prayed and asked God to help me understand my husband. And everything that I share with you is going to come from a Christian perspective, because I love Jesus with all of my heart. And the things that I have to share with you are coming from a place of, I believe that God is the answer. He is the source. He is who I have turned to in the valleys of my marriage and on the mountaintops. He is the one who has sustained me and my husband through so many trials. And so everything that I share with you is going to come from a Christian perspective, but I pray that what I have to share with you, even if you are not a believer, that it encourages you with where you are right now in your marriage. And so let me go back to that prayer. I had prayed, God, please help me to understand my husband. I was so desperate for the Lord to start to change me as a woman, as a wife, that I started to pray this simple prayer: help me to understand my husband. Help me to learn about his personality more. Help me to understand how he communicates. Help me to understand the weight that he carries on his shoulders every day as a husband and as a father. Help me to understand him. And it was at that point that the Lord started to tear down some of the walls that I had built up in my heart. He had started to open my eyes to see my husband as he sees him. And this simple desire to understand your husband is more powerful than you think. If you are in a difficult season of your marriage, I can guarantee you that simply the desire to understand your husband and praying and asking God for the ability to see him the way that God sees him will unlock something in your heart that you have not seen before. I can guarantee you that. Becoming a parent will change everything in your marriage. It will sanctify you, change you in ways that you never imagined that you would need to be changed. When you get married, you realize some of the selfish tendencies that you have, but when you become a parent, when you become a mom and a dad, it unleashes and unlocks so many more areas of your life that need to be changed and refined. And I think that this is one of the beauties of growing together in your marriage. When you become a parent, you are stepping into this new adventure together. And so I would encourage you to do something that me and my husband did not do very well in the first few years of our marriage, is leaning into the excitement that becoming a parent is a brand new adventure that you get to experience with your spouse side by side, and to fight every tendency of competition, of comparison, of resentment. Fight every urge to become resentful towards your husband. Fight that tendency. Steps number 2 is I want you to think about intentional and thoughtful acts of love that you as a wife can bring to the table. And I'm specifically talking to wives here, to women, because maybe some men will click on this video, maybe not. But I am talking to the wives out there, but I'm also talking to the husbands. This goes both ways here. Is intentional, thoughtful acts of love go a long way in your marriage. When you ignore your spouse, when you just start to kind of treat them like a roommate, when you're not building upon your marriage with thoughtful acts of love each and every day, that's when the offenses start to build up. That's when the hurts and the pains will kind of come out in random moments of your marriage, when you get into like a simple disagreement, a simple argument, and things start to pile up, right? And then when you're in the middle of a fight, things start to boil over, and if they're not dealt with, which I'm going to touch base on next, is it's going to interrupt the intimacy in your marriage. It's going to interrupt the natural flow and being kind of like in sync with your spouse. And so I want you to think about writing your spouse a note today, this week. Send them a text every day, just a simple text showing them some appreciation for something that they did or for who they are. A phone call, random phone call, just saying something short and sweet. Cooking a favorite meal, or like my husband sends me away basically, or like he'll take the boys every Saturday so I can have a break. Something really, really simple but means a lot to me. Serving one another. Acts of service are going to become humongous when you become a parent, because the needs of the children become ever more vivid in front of both of you. And so serving one another is actually a huge, huge way of showing love and appreciation. Something that my husband and I started to implement is just a weekly date night at home. We cannot afford a babysitter every single month. You know as well as I do that hiring a babysitter plus going out, and the cost of going out is a lot. And so in January of this year, we started to implement a once a week date night on Friday nights, where we feed our boys dinner ahead of time. It's usually something real simple, real quick. And then my husband and I will make like a special meal after we put the boys to bed, and we will play a game or watch a movie or something. But it is just such a simple, sweet way of reconnecting at the end of the week, and we look forward to this time. We look forward to feeding the kids by themselves, getting them to bed, and then having our own date night at home. Something else is like reading a book together, studying, if you're a Christian, studying a book of the Bible together. Don't underestimate the power of doing something together, reading the word or reading a book that you guys want to read together, something like that. Play a game instead of watching TV. Not that watching a show that you like to watch is bad, or a movie, but playing games like will often encourage us to have conversation, or like telling funny stories or connecting about the day or the week or whatever. It's just a really intentional, thoughtful way of connection and intimacy. All right, so number 3 is talking about the hurts, the pains, the offenses that you have in your marriage before they erupt. And I just alluded to this in the previous point, but staying connected in your marriage and developing intimacy in your marriage is the long game. I want you to think about each and every day, each week that passes by is really adding up to where you want your marriage to be long term. And so if you push the offenses away, if you keep burying them, so to speak, they will come up eventually. I can promise you that from personal experience. So if you have something that you need to talk to your spouse about, if something that hurt you or offended you, or maybe you're not even sure what they meant by what they said, but you didn't have the time to talk about it in the moment because life, right? Life is chaotic. Life is very busy. Life is full for good reasons. But you need to come back to the table and talk about it. Grab a cup of tea in the evening and just say like, hey, can we sit down and talk about a few things that really bothered me or really hurt me? And this way you're keeping your marriage clear and clean of offense, which then the enemy cannot use against you. You're basically waging warfare against the enemy of your soul who wants to steal, kill, and destroy anything he can in your marriage. And it does become harder after you become a parent to do these things because there is more responsibility. There is more need. There is more just going on in your life because of the nature of having beautiful children to take care of. But it does require more intentionality in your marriage. And so don't forget about that. Don't forget about understanding one another. Saying that prayer that I just taught you, like, just help me to understand my husband. You know, and husbands saying this about their wives, God, help me to understand my wife. Having intentional, thoughtful acts of love towards one another. Talking through those offenses, those hurts, their pains. My husband and I have come a long way, and still obviously we'll have a long way to go in our marriage. But once again, like I said in the beginning, we did everything wrong the first couple of years of our marriage. We didn't know how to work through conflict in a healthy way. And we have had to take baby steps at a time, learning how to stay connected, stay intimate in our marriage while being parents. And it requires a grit and a determination to persevere through all of the hard seasons and to keep going, to keep connecting, even when it's painful and even when it's hard. Okay, so that leads me to my last point. And if you have made it to this point in time, I want to share something with you. And I share this from a Christian perspective, that physical intimacy in marriage is beyond important. As wives, I have a lot of different viewpoints on physical intimacy at this point in our marriage because of my journey with physical intimacy. I I think I still stand in the camp of men. God has wired men to desire physical intimacy more than their wife. However, the Lord has brought me a really, really long way in seeing not just the importance of physical intimacy in our marriage, but actually having a deep desire for it. And I say this with honesty, because of the journey that God has had me and my husband walk through. We have been through so many trials, but also so many hurts, so many pains, so many offenses, that the Lord has slowly teared down and gotten us to a very healed place in our marriage, which then has created this desire for my husband that I did not know the first 4 years of our marriage, give or take there. And it has been such a wonderful, beautiful season of healing, and seeing how physical intimacy, even after becoming parents, can actually be amazing and wonderful, and exploring one another even more so, and having a desire for one another that wasn't even there before becoming parents. Like, desiring my husband physically has been one of the most healing parts of becoming stronger in our connection. And I would love to kind of deep dive into this, but now is not the time or the space. But I would love to be able to encourage other wives in this area, because it is something that I'm slowly becoming more, I want to become more open about. And how pursuing intimacy with your husband is not just for him. Like, it is for our souls. It is for us too. We desire it as well. But I think that as wives, we are prone to stuff a lot of things down, and to put up walls, and to not allow ourselves to be fully open with our husband because of how we feel about ourselves most of the time. And if we allow God to heal those places in our hearts, then our desire for physical intimacy with our husband can actually bloom and like blossom and grow. I really want to share more, and I'm thinking about sharing it through a private podcast audio version of just my personal story with this. And so if you are at all interested, at the time that I release a podcast, a private podcast audio version of my story with healing in our marriage with this topic, physical intimacy, and where the Lord has brought me, I want you just to go down to the description box and click the link to sign up for our email list with Noble Motherhood. I would love for you to be on that list, so that when I launch that private audio, you can go ahead and learn from my journey, and possibly let it become a healing part of yours also as a wife. And so I just want to thank you for being here, friend. Thank you for listening to these 3 points about how to connect with your spouse in this season, how to stay intimate even after being parents. If anything really resonated with you, please comment below. I would love to hear from you, and the more that you comment, that you like, that you subscribe to the channel, the more that this platform will let this video reach more and more. So thank you for being here once again, and I will talk to you soon. God bless you. Bye.